Hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of an organization called Million Kids, MILLION, millionkids.org. And that organization has been in business since 2008, combating human trafficking, sex trafficking, social media exploitation, child pornography, yes, sir, and sextortion, and even things like money laundering and like that. And there's so much going on in the world and all of those subjects. It's hard for me to pick which one to share with you on the time that we have together on Saturday afternoon. My reason for wanting this show was basically to educate the public. I'm known for my tens of thousands of hours of research on all those subjects, and I've now trained over 500,000 people. But it isn't about me. It's about helping you understand what is taking place in the changes of our society so that we can, number one, stand up for what's right and also prepare our kids to live in the next generation. I often say the generation that is going to live in a world without borders and a home without walls. One of the things that I have learned over the last 10, 12 years of doing this kind of research is that it is so fast changing. And I can barely keep up and with all of the research that goes on. But I try to put the information together for you, especially moms and dads, so that you can protect your children and prepare them to live in the next generation. You know, this generation of our kids is already way far past all of us. These kids are smart, smarter than many of us. Okay. They know how to use those devices. And, I will be the first to tell you that this is the most exciting and most terrifying time to ever be alive because our kids are going to live on technology. Technology isn't good or bad. It is up to us to teach our children to use technology in a way that honors themselves and honors God and honors each other, and that they can excel because of the advantages that they have compared to the lives that we've had. If I'm kind of on the higher end of these generations now, and I think back that all that my parents wanted for me, I think the first words I ever heard out of my parents was college. I think as soon as I was born, it was, you will get a degree. My folks were, blue collar people in the Midwest. My dad was a railroader. And he worked hard. I mean, he's out there at 4 a.m. and it's snowing to beat the band, and that iron on all those engines and boxcars on a train or coal. But he did it so that I would have the best of everything, and my brother would have the best of everything. My brother's since passed. But I look at this now, and we're doing the same thing here. Is that as we've come along and we've tried to learn technology, we want the very best for our children, but we also want it in a way that they're not going to get hurt. And all of this is some of what we have done over the past 10 years is to prepare to educate you about how technology works. So I want to take that down a dark place again today. I did it again last week, and I hesitate to do this because this is public radio, but I do believe that there's an aspect of what is happening in our history today as it's happening right now that we'll look back on for years to come and say, how did we see it then and how do we see it now? Now, what I'm going to talk about is this Judge Brown Jackson's cases and her rulings about what we call child pornography, the fancy word for those now, because everything is artificial intelligence and they don't like that out on the web. You could easily be removed from somebody's social media for using those terms. So now they clean it up and call it CSAM or CSIM. That's CSAM and CSEM, child sexual abuse materials or child sexual exploitation materials. So, what I want to talk about here is the impact of technology on this, because as you analyze this Judge Brown Jackson's approach to rulings on child pornography, she's saying, well, these rulings are antiquated because it didn't live in the world of the internet, and that changes everything. Well, yes, it does, but I'm not necessarily sure I agree with her opinion on how it should change sentencing. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm kind of jumping all over the place here today, so forgive me. But, like you, I'm sure I am mesmerized as I watch the Ukrainian war take place. Now, technology changes us in how we perceive things, what's going on. It puts us right on the front line where we're engaging in the activity. I get so mad at how we're handling this Ukrainian thing personally. I get mad at that. I'm of the generation that remembers when Berlin built a wall. And I was mad about that. How can you do that to people? And I kind of thought that technology would bring us to a place where we would all rise above this thing. Technology puts us right on the forefront of war and terrorism. Think about a terrorist today. He doesn't just go in and throw a bomb and run. He throws a bomb and he live streams it as he's running, or she's running, because terrorists are also female. And they live stream that so you get to experience it. You get to be involved in it. And it brings home that terrorism event right into your living room, and it changes the way you perceive things. Well, that is happening to me with the Ukraine. I mean, if we believe in democracy, how can democratic nations all around the world stand by as an entire country, millions of good, hardworking people, just like ourselves, that are raped, that are tied up, that are mutilated, that are harmed, that we are seeing it, and nobody is doing something to stop it because they don't want to escalate? Folks, it's already escalated. When one party goes in and takes over a nuclear plant and starts raping and bombing children and people, it has already escalated. I look at this and I say, what I'm saying is, when you see these things, you pass judgment and you want to see justice happen. You want to see people held accountable. And the same kind of thing is taking place in the world of child pornography. And I will come back to that in the next section. But it allows you to participate. And I will tell you that that also is true of the bad guy. Putin is seeing what is happening, and he's seeing it instantaneously, and he passes his own judgment. But so do other people as you get engaged in this. And it will change the way we perceive crime. And it also changes the way that crimes are committed. They are committing these crimes and filming them and making sure that the word gets out instantaneously. And that is the world that our children will grow up into. And that is also true of the world that our children will grow up in sexually. I often say, for many of our kids, their first sexual experience will be a virtual sexual experience. And if it's a healthy environment, they will survive it. But if it's a dangerous and damaging environment, if it creates illicit activity on their part, or if they become the victim of illicit activity, because much of this is taking place online, it will change who they are for the rest of their lives. So that's why, even though this is a very uncomfortable subject, certainly not one we enjoy at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, It is an important subject to have dialogue with your husband, with your wife, and with your children, because many pedophiles now find their victims online, and what starts out as an enticing, loving, and sexual relationship, and it deteriorates and is your child that will be the victim of this. And we need to understand how that works. Will you stay with me, folks? We're going to be right back.
Listen up, folks. You no longer have to drive out of the IE for a great restaurant experience. The Toasted Barrel, an upscale casual steakhouse located in Corona, has been winning award after award for their great diverse menu, service, ambience, wine, and cocktails. Customers call the Barrel the perfect date night. Inland Empire Magazine has awarded them Best Restaurant 4 years in a row. Wine Spectator recognized the Toasted Barrel's wine program for their award of excellence. Toasted Barrel is famous for their certified Angus beef, prime, Wagyu, and Kobe steaks, and they have some of the best pasta and seafood around. With happy hour and daily specials every day of the week, their appetizers and drink selections are the best around. Live music starts every Friday and Saturday at 5:30. Planning a dinner party, wedding rehearsal, family gathering, or holiday party? Look up Toasted Barrel online and make your reservation today.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced: The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590, The Answer.
Real estate sales in the Inland Empire are really hot. Sellers and buyers recognize that these low interest rates will not last. Sean and Colleen at Caldwell Banker Armstrong Properties in Riverside are proud to sponsor this show. They are the best in the Inland Empire. They're fair, honest, creative, and they care about you and your situation. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call Sean and Colleen at 951-529-4066.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton, and we are talking about the impact on crime, and especially child sex crimes. And specifically, where we're going to go with this are cases about child pornography. It really has, I've always been careful not to talk about it on my radio shows because, we got children listening. But all too often, many of our children are victims. And that should not be happening. So if they're going to see this, we need to be able to talk about it. So I want to start off with a case announcement. One of the things I want you to do, if you will, our organization is Million Kids. Please go to millionkids.org, not .com, that's a rock band, millionkids.org, and sign up for Million Kids Insider Alerts. I announce new cases at least once a week, and I analyze cases, and this is going to be the one for this week because I'm going to tie it back into what is happening with Justice Brown Jackson, excuse me. So the headline that came out today, and it's all over the world, by the way, when I get my headlines, I try to get them from reputable places, and if there's a political bent one way or the other, including my own. Yes, I have my own opinions. I try to identify this. So I've gotten information all over. So the headline announcement is that they have busted a new dark net ring, a child pornography ring. It was out of Europe. It was busted by Europol. It was called Boys Town, although there were a couple of other sites that were on there. And this one had 400,000 members. Now, I can't verify whether they are members for free or paying members. Some of these large sites are paying members using cryptocurrency. And by the way, it's all about money laundering. In fact, the articles here refer back to the largest site that has ever been discovered, which was out of South Korea, called Welcome to Video. Now, don't get distracted that it's out of South Korea, because a large percentage of the pedophiles were from the U.S. And in this case, there were over 1 million paid subscribers into Welcome to Video. 1 million. So that tells you right off the bat how pedophilia has changed. It used to be that these people that had fetishes for young children, and by the way, I've studied this for years and years and years. You can start out, wanting only boys or only girls or teenagers. And it is the teenagers that often get caught up in this because of the crime called sextortion. In other words, they go on a dating site, they go on a meetup site, they hook up on a TikTok, and somebody's going to make them famous, and they get acquainted and they think this guy's wonderful, or girl. Many guys get caught up in this. They're, on a video game chat room, and they're hormonal, and they're meeting a 14-year-old hot girl while they're all looking at animated pornography, and it's a cinch. The kid can hardly help himself. And the next thing you know, they're demonstrating via live streaming now. This is the key, all of this live streaming coming together. They are demonstrating how this works because they come together with someone they absolutely don't know, never met, and they get hot and bothered in the heat of the moment, or else they think they're in a relationship, or they're going to be discovered by some Hollywood agent on TikTok. And the next thing you know, they've sent off this half-nude photo. And the sextortion, the sex and extortion begin. And what our kids don't understand are those photos are being solicited sometimes by rings as many as 20 and 30 pedophiles that are tricking our kids at a time our kids don't know they're talking to 5, 10 different people. And what they're trying to do is get photographs to go off into these child pornography rings. And if you got into Welcome to Video, if somebody was soliciting your child and they sent the photo there, it's going to go to 1 million people. Well, they found this dark web ring called Boys Town, where they were tricking boys to sending in photos. And in this case, one photo could go out to 400,000 pedophiles who then drool over it, and they, buy, sell, and trade it all around the world for the rest of that kid's life, and then even after that kid is gone in some cases. And so that is what is happening with technology. They are pedophiles of all kinds, whether they prefer teenagers or 8-year-olds or 6 years old, or God forbid, a lot of them prefer them before child is ever even considered a toddler. And so this is a sickness beyond the public description that we're allowed to handle in a public place. But what I want you to see is the impact of technology. I say this because this Judge Brown Jackson is saying, well, you have to understand, in many cases, I choose the lower sentence because this has all changed with so many people getting caught up in it, and they're just doing it online. I will never forget interviewing a group of young people at a church, and I won't say where. I did a written survey, and literally all the kids, the bulk of the kids said, sex on the internet is not sex because you're not, having a relationship in the physical. Killing isn't killing. I get that argument. Some of them said sin on the internet's not sin. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for them, but it's an interesting society because we're placing children online before they even know what adult sexuality is. And we're allowing them to play on these games where they see all kinds of sexual images. And it's just like making your kid a setting duck because, well, I don't want to violate ducks here, but, think about it. These guys are good, and they send your kid a little game, and, everybody's taking a picture of their private parts, and they're all giggling and having a great time, and they're showing other little kids doing it, so it normalizes it. And off that little photo goes out into the dark web. You see the way these rings run, and the one I'm talking about is from Germany, had 400,000 people. They were divided out into 2 different sections on it for what it was worth. And so they're tricking kids, and they're also violating kids and sending this in. Why has this gotten so large? Well, I think that the impact of technology, of bringing people together, saying, hey, you're part of our family, you're part of our group, pay your dues, I'll share some photos with you. It normalizes that. The fact that we're now putting literally millions of kids online without explaining to them how this world works and where these photos go makes millions of kids available. And the fact that they can use live streaming and interactive technology in the dark net means that they can now administer this and they can set up rules. You see, to belong to one of these rings, like Welcome to Video or Boys Town, you get to qualify every week to prove that you are not law enforcement. That puts a lot of pressure on a person to come up with photographs of activity taking place to be submitted so they can stay part of the group. And apparently people don't understand that. And that is a lot of what is taking place. I think it's greatly accelerated. I know that it is accelerated because we're seeing databases. We know of 3 databases with 30 million images in them. That's not 30 million images. That's 30 million children who were violated and had their image taken. And that image is now being passed around databases, in this case, to literally 40,000 people simultaneously, so that one person can continue on being part of that dark net and proving that they're not law enforcement. So this is absolutely a pandemic. And a lot of this is driving the sextortion business, which is our movie, which I'm dying to release, but we're still in negotiations with streamers, so I cannot. But right now, I want people to understand that that's why people want our kids' naked photo. And if your kid doesn't understand it and where it goes, they shouldn't be on the internet to understand how big this is. So what Judge Brown Jackson is saying is, well, there's a lot of people who are just members of this group that are just looky-loos. They're not hurting anybody. And, there's no use sending them off to prison for the rest of their life and making a child sex offender out of them when they're just looky-loos on the internet. That is naive and uninformed, quite frankly. And now we're finding that many judges, something like 70% of judges, have that attitude. That's a problem. This is Opal Singleton. The show is called Exploited: Crimes and Technology, and we will be right back.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the darknet will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and I am the host of this show, and we are talking about what is going on in Capitol Hill and what the reality of our lives are because of technology. You see, as I've read all of these articles, and again, I read the left side and the south side, the right side. You know, I read foreign national input on it because, yes, they are following this around the world. You see, child pornography has become a global scourge. Now, to their credit, law enforcement has put a lot of effort. It takes a lot of technology and advanced technology to find these things because these guys are online. I was sharing with you about the one that I'm going to do on Million Kids Insider Alerts this week. It was a new ring that was discovered. Pedophiles from around the world use the platform to exchange and watch mostly of children and toddlers. The website had multiple forums and chats, and video images were kept in many different languages. This is sophisticated. This is encrypted. These are housed in the dark net with the Tor browser. Let me just kind of give you what that means. If you think of the internet as a bucket of water, about the 4%, maybe 5% now of it is where we live. You know, we have search engines and IP addresses and like that. That's the public web, surface web, clear web, whatever you want to call it. Below that is the deep web, and that's where all your NSA and government stuff is hidden. But below that's the dark net, and you can't just go back and forth. If your kid is telling you, "Oh, Mom, I just got there by accident," and by the way, I know of several affluent teenagers that have come out that they are on the dark net. If you ever see your child with a .onion account, especially if there's some sort of computer nerd that maybe is a little more sophisticated than the average person, pay attention and report it. No minor child should ever be on the dark net. But to be in the dark net, you have to have very specific addresses, and you need a special browser called a Tor, the Onion router. So if you see a kid with .onion, that stands for the Onion router, meaning they are using that to get in the dark net. You do not go back and forth by accident. You have to know what you're doing to do it. But once you're there, you have to have specific addresses. So you don't just wander in one of those websites. So these 40,000 people found that are part of Boys Town found somebody else that was part of it and said, "Oh, I'm into that too." And they said, "Show me some evidence because we want to make sure you're not a cop. Send us some bunch of pictures, a bunch of live streaming interaction, a bunch of videos that show you're doing this. And we will submit it, and we'll submit it every week. And once we trust you, you can go deeper and deeper into these groups." And that is what is happening in this thing called Boys Town. By the way, both Homeland Security and FBI and many local police departments are also trying to find these things to break them up. They are absolutely massive. And this is why changing opinion of judges is so important on this, because what you have are pedophiles who are hanging out with other pedophiles. Now, they gave the case of Wesley Hawkins here. He was 18 and he was one of her cases. And in his case, he had gone in and he'd gone to one of these sites and he started viewing and he started taking a look at it. And her attitude is, well, he's only possessing, he's not violating anybody. He's just watching a child be violated. And that is completely different. Well, yes, okay. Except for he is in the dark web where he's watching very small children be harmed, and not in a gentle way, mom and dad. So as we look at this, and they started to look at it, they actually have an interview. They have an article here from the Washington Post where they contacted Wesley Hawkins, and he had no idea that he was being talked about on Capitol Hill. Now, he got off really, really light considering this situation, but he actually says in there that he went to work for 3 years. He performed okay. He didn't get back into it, but when he got laid off, he found himself back looking at it again. And so he was caught doing that, and he was sent off for more help. I'm not against getting help. This is addictive, and it's obsessive compulsive behavior. So I'm not against getting help, but I also think that we need to understand when we're starting to sentence these people that they're not doing this in isolation. They're doing it as part of a group, and they're looking at some absolutely horrendous stuff. So what had happened is he had gotten in a group very similar to the one that I'm telling you about. This group that they just discovered with the 40,000 people in it had unidentified chat services. In other words, you're not just looking at a photo in a back room. You are often interacting with other pedophiles, and you're sharing this, and you're competing, and you're getting approval in this. So there were several of these types of websites. It was 2 more platforms called Lori Pub and Boys Pub. And this is hardcore stuff that they're taking down. I want to point this out because they're finding these rings all the time. And so it's very important to understand. I believe that judges need to be educated. Judges across the world, if 70% of judges, according to the defense, this is the Democrats' defense, saying, look, she's not the only one, and 70% gave sentences lighter than was recommended, and like that. Well, they're using that as a justification to, confirm her. I'm using it as a call to action, an air raid siren. That if 70% of judges across America are not following the normal guidelines, they need to be informed about the reality of child pornography. And I believe that's true of the Supreme Court justices also, because I think very few people understand just how serious this is. Now, she had other cases that I've been looking at, and they get so you can't say it on the air on a Saturday afternoon with the family in the car. Let's put it that way. These are egregious cases. Cases that are just very, very difficult to even speak of, let alone see. And so in recognition that this is a family show, I'm not going to go there. But they're hardcore cases on a massive level where it went far beyond viewing. It went on to, because in order to continue to view in these rings, they will require that you move to the next step, meaning that you manufacture and that you share that with others. So it's very difficult just to be someone who's a peeping Tom on the internet. Okay, let's put it that way. And so this is a very serious matter that the public be educated in. So let me stop for a minute and thank you that you're willing to listen to the show. It seems of late, I sometimes say to myself, does anybody listen? Is anybody out there? I research this stuff and I share it in the microphone. And in the last couple of months, I've had so many of you over and over and over who call me afterwards now and say, be sure and tell them this, and call Susan Collins and get a hold of Mitt Romney and stop this thing, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and like that. By the way, we are going to be at Unite IE in the next day, as it turns out, as this show is airing, and I'll get to meet a lot of you. But I want to say how important you are. You see, I can research all this stuff. Yeah, I do it. And, some days I think, oh, I'm going to give this up. It's just too much. But I've been doing it for years, and it is fascinating to see how fast our world is changing right before our eyes without us realizing it. And that involves the preserving and the sanctity of our children's healthy sex images in the future. And technology will change that if we don't counterbalance that by having the hard conversations. And that's why I commend you for being mature about it, for getting your head out of the sand and saying, this is happening. It is happening right before our eyes, and we must stand for what's right. We must support our legislators that are trying to support the good legislation and not allow the tsunami of BS, I guess I can say that, going across the world of saying, well, this is normal. Minor attracted kids or minor attracted persons is normal. We must take a stand against it. And to do that, we need to be informed. And I thank you for listening. We'll be right back.
Custom Service Systems, a proud supporter of Million Kids, is a family-owned and operated commercial cleaning company servicing the Inland Empire and surrounding areas since 1974. CSS takes pride in their ability to maintain the business facilities they serve and their long-lasting relationships with their valued clients. CSS provides a variety of cleaning systems customized to client needs, including deep cleaning and disinfectant to be COVID-19 compliant. From basic office cleaning to windows and floors, CSS will clean up your mess so you don't have to stress. Custom Service Systems cares about families and communities and wants to give back. Custom Service Systems are proud supporters of Million Kids to keep kids safe from predators. If you need the best cleaning services for your business or corporation, contact Custom Service Systems at cssclean.com. Again, cssclean.com, or call 951-781-9345. That's 951-781-9345. You will know you found the best. Custom Service Systems.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Let me tell you about my friend Doris Anderson at Remax Realty in Upland. She is amazing. She's kind, she's patient, but she listens. And she's informed, and she will help you with your real estate transaction in a way that works for you. Doris, in full disclosure, often supports the work of Million Kids because she cares about young people. But she knows how to analyze a market, how to market a property, and how to find just the right transaction for both buyers and sellers. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate or invest in income property, contact Doris Anderson at Remax Realty, 951-733-8899. That's 951-733-8899. 951-733-8899.
This message is all about Million Kids, the organization that helps locate missing kids throughout Southern California and educates to keep kids safe from predators. Million Kids educates school administrators, teachers, parents, and teenagers how predators identify a potential victim and the methods they use to recruit innocent kids. BMW of Riverside is a proud supporter of Million Kids. Visit BMW of Riverside at the Adams Street exit off the 91 freeway or click bmwofriverside.com.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton. I'm on a roll, I'm telling you, because watching these hearings and watching the naivety of our senators and our congresspeople and our legislators around the world who are so uninformed. Somehow we need some sort of legislation that requires all judges across America get trained on matters of things like child sexual exploitation materials and the dark net and technology and how it all works and why it is so important that we stay on top of it. But first, I have to educate the public, and that's you for listening. And I commend you for taking the time to care. You see, it is our children and our grandchildren that are at stake here. If it used to be that it was just some weird uncle in the corner and you tried to keep an eye on him, or that neighbor on the sex register down the street like that, But now it is your next door neighbor. It is many people that are now going online. And what they're saying is, what I do online doesn't matter. And what concerns me a bit is the way that many of our legislators and judges say, well, we need different sentencing because if it's taking place online, we need a different look at it. And I get what this lady is saying. I've grappled with this discussion myself. If you're only a looky-loo, should you go to prison for a long time? You haven't hurt anybody. But the problem with that is you don't get to looky-loo much long these days in these large-scale rings, because in order to stay on, they're going to require you to go to the next level. And when you're looky-looing, if that's a word, at very I can't even come up with it, just nauseating kinds of images to the average person, and you're seeing that as normal, you are changing your perspective. And that is what is happening with technology. And it's happening with our kids all over. Our kids are victims, but often they're participants because they'll hook up with one of these people online and send that photo where they themselves self-manufactured the photo, and then they end up getting blackmail. We have to talk about how to use technology in a way that honors ourselves and supports our society in a healthy and giving way. And this thing of it being online needs to be looked at. I agree that if you're just curious and you look one or two times, you shouldn't spend the rest of your life in prison. But once you start engaging on a regular basis, I guarantee you will get sucked into this and you will become addicted. I'm extremely concerned about this when you look at your child's video games. Now, I'm not against video gaming. All the kids are doing it, and you're not going to be able to take it away. But, if you're curious, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, jump online with your kid, even if you're lousy at it, get yourself an avatar and start playing some of those games. And suddenly you will see that that child is being saturated with a lot of sexual images that occur with violation. In other words, much of your video gaming shows sex as a game where you get points when you encounter somebody sexually, and then you knock them off at the end so that you can get points, or it isn't conducive to a healthy relationship and a healthy attitude of what a respectful relationship should be. And that works both ways, because if it's okay to violate somebody, is it okay that you're violated? And we really have to think out these hard subjects. This is an interesting time in our society. I watch the Ukraine thing, and I look at my soul, and I feel responsible that I have not stopped that. And I realize that's the impact of technology on my moral values, as I am offended that good countries everywhere have not stepped up to protect the innocent in that situation. They did nothing to provoke it, and yet it comes back. And they get attacked, and we all go, well, I hope you can defend yourself. And in a month or so, we'll try to get you what you need. But in the meantime, you need to take care of yourself. And I just look at that and I struggle. Well, the same kind of thing is going on in Capitol Hill as this discussion is taking place, that if it's online, it deserves a different sentence, because people can easily get brought in without meaning to. I agree with that, but I think that should be a national wake-up call to educate our students. If we're going to put them online where it is and they're going to be the potential victims, we need to start talking about it. And we need to start talking about it in our Sunday school classes, in our corporations, and in our organizations to understand how this works. We need to become leaders and not be afraid to speak out. This is a tough subject, and I myself, even though I'm an expert at it, struggle to how to communicate with that. But we have to recognize this is taking place on Capitol Hill at the highest level, as we're saying, Well, I'm not sure these people mean to do that, and they really didn't violate. Yes, they did look at 100,000 kids be violated, and nobody's asking, what about the victim? That is not 100,000 photos. It is 100,000 kids that are dying a death of 1,000 needles for the rest of their life as they are then violated online. Just because it's online does not mean the victim is not being exploited over and over. I dare say it's a worse crime because they can be victimized by millions more people than they ever could have been at any time in our society or our history. Folks, you're my heroes that you bother to listen to this. This ain't easy, okay? I get it. But I appreciate each and every one of you that listen, that help, that reach out, identify, speak to me, tell me that you appreciate the fact that we're standing up in the hard fights. I appreciate you for caring. I appreciate you for being parents and grandparents and leaders that are willing to do what it takes to prepare our kids in the hardest generation that will ever live. They will have more opportunity and more information than any generation ever before them, but they will also have more opportunities to exploit another and to be exploited by another. So thank you so much for listening to this show. If you're willing to support our show financially, please go to millionkids.org, hit that donate button if you would, or send me a check if you're old-fashioned. I'm old-fashioned. I like to go to that post office and get your check and go, yes, thank you, Lord. Thank you for these people. And tell me why you care. Tell me why this is important to you. If you contact me, you can contact me at opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. Well, folks, our world needs prayer. You know, God is still on the throne. God is still in charge. God knows what is happening, and this is nothing new to him. I've read the Bible. I've been to Pompeii, and though it is now virtual, it's the same darn thing as it's been throughout history. This is the fight of good and evil, and I want to take the high road in this case. And I appreciate each and every one of you coming alongside of us. Please go to millionkids.org and sign up for those insider alerts, if you will. I'd appreciate it. And let me know who you are and what you're thinking out there. But this week, I hope that you will pay attention. We're about to have a very important vote. And it doesn't look right now like we're going to be able to change that vote. It's going to be as it's going to be. But that does not mean that we rescind our duties and our responsibility as parents, as leaders in your community. It means that we now have to get tougher and stronger. Even ourselves are going to be exposed to more violence, more hate, more terrorism, more sexual violation and exploitation than any other generation in history. And that means we need tough leaders. We need leaders who are willing to recognize where we're at and understand that we approach it with love, we approach it with dignity, and we show our kids how to use technology in a way that will benefit themselves and make our world a better place. And we have to stand against the sexual exploitation of children around the world, whether it's in person or online, or whether you saw it from somebody else or you participated. This is Opal Singleton. The show is Exploited, Crimes and Technology. We come to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. Put your arms around your family this week and let them know how proud you are of them and how much you love them. See you next Saturday, 3 o'clock.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the darknet will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.